Which household item is the best stain remover? By Tomer Tsin, Zach Lukeman, Elizabeth Cement, and Danny Torno. Research question. Which household item is the best at removing cherry stains when mixed with water? And will the optimal results differ when the fabric stained is different?
Why this project matters. In NYC, laundry is expensive. On average, it costs one person $230 a year to do their laundry. It's important to find a cheaper alternative to stain removing, especially now when you can't go outside to the laundromat if you don't have a laundry machine in your house. Household items are a good alternative because they don't require extra money for them since they're already in the house. How stain removing works. The first step to clean fabric is dissolving the stain. This can be achieved by using a solvent, a fluid that dissolves other chemicals. The rule for solvents is like dissolves like. For example, a water-based solvent will dissolve a water-based stain. Same with an oil-based solvent, an oil-based stain, etc., etc. The next step in the stain removing process is emulsifying a stain. A stain remover will usually contain either an emulsifier or a surfactant, which helps to lift the stain from the fabric and, disperse the particles to make them easier to take off. Once the stain hits the surface, the molecule will connect to both the stain and the water used to clean the stain, washing the stain away.
Which materials are we using? We chose lemon juice, baking soda, nail polish remover, and aspirin as our stain removers. The reason we're testing these is because our research online pointed that they were the most effective. For a stainer, we chose cherry juice. Also, the fabrics we chose to test on are dry fit, denim, and cotton. We chose these fabrics because their fiber composition are very different. Why is cherry juice a tough stainer? Cherry juice is a very tough stain to remove due to the tannins inside it. Tannins are substances used to permanently dye clothing different colors. Also, tannins can be commonly found in other items, including wine and coffee.
So our prediction was, according to Clean Facts, a company that specializes in cleaning and restoring carpets, using bleach is the best way to remove tannins as it is a very powerful oxidizer. But out of our chosen cleaners, the cleaner most similar to bleach is baking soda, as they are both basic and contain alkaline. Therefore, we think baking soda will be the best cleaner out of the ones we are testing. But since there are so many conflicting opinions on the web, this prediction could be very wrong, which is the sole purpose of why we are experimenting. So basically, there were so many opinions on the web of like what is the best stain remover, that we just had to choose one and think of why it would be the best, and we just had to go with it. So this is our procedure. So we had to cut the materials into 10 by 10 squares. Then we had to pour 10 milliliters of cherry juice on each square of fabric and wait 5 minutes. Then we had to clean the stains. So for each one, it was slightly different, and it was a lot of trial and error. So for the lemon juice and the nail polish remover, we had the same procedure. So we took 15 milliliters of lemon juice or nail polish remover and 15 milliliters of water. We mixed them, and then we dip the towel into the mix, then scrub the stain. We'll measure it by the color of the towel. So yeah, and then for the aspirin, we crush 7 pills with a mortar and pestle, and then mix with 5 milliliters of warm water until a paste forms. Then we applied the paste to the stain and let it sit for an hour, and then we scrubbed with a damp towel afterwards. Then for baking soda, we made a paste of 10 grams of baking milliliters of warm water, and using a toothbrush or just our finger, we applied the paste, and then we let it sit for an hour, and then we scrubbed it with a towel. And then also for our control, we poured 10 milliliters of cherry juice, and then we scrubbed with 30 milliliters of water.
In addition, we did 2 trials for each of them, and we just did them to make sure that to ensure of our accuracy and to see that the data was similar to each other. Okay, so these are photos of how we set up our experiment. So this is before when you're preparing the stain. This is when it, and these two are when it was stained. Okay, so for our results, according to how we were analyzing our data, both denim and dry fit had the same ranking of what stain removers work best. Nail polish remover number 1, lemon juice number 2, our control actually was number 3, aspirin number 4, and baking soda number 5. However, cotton had a slightly different order. Lemon juice was first and nail polish remover second, but the rest was the same. These are our graphs for these, and we created 3 graphs, one for each fabric, and actually the best stain remover is the shortest bar, and the worst stain remover is the largest bar in height. Danny. Oh, sorry. What? Sorry, this is weird. Okay, Danny, it's your turn.
Wait, no, you went the wrong way.
No, this is the right one. Look.
Okay. Okay.
Danny?
Danny, this is.
Okay.
Danny, are
Cool.
you here?
Yeah, I'm here. This is an example of how we analyzed our data. After taking photos, we would compare the photos from different trials, and from there we would determine which cleaners worked best according to how red our scrubbing fabrics were. The towels. Above you can see the first round of trials for aspirin. From this, it is obvious the scrubbing fabrics for the nail polish remover trial were redder than the aspirin trial. We determined the nail polish remover worked better than aspirin as a cleaner. This just gives you a glimpse into what our thought process was when we analyzed our data and created our graphs.
Yeah, look at the towels here versus here.
And and how they were.
Sorry, it's screwed up.
Yeah, she gets it.
These are some of our observations that we had during our experimenting. Firstly, we noticed with the dry fit that the water sank in, leaving the tannins in a bubble at the top. You can kind of see that on the picture on the top right. The denim soaked in immediately, and cotton took the longest for the cherry juice to soak in. It kind of bounced off the fabric. Also, unlike the other fabrics, the cotton appeared to be just as red as it had been before it was stained. The aspirin made the fabric turn white and appear bleached. This was especially noticed on denim. And the baking soda trials turned gray immediately when touched by the baking soda paste. And you can see that in one of the pictures.
Just to clarify with the cotton, we mean that after we cleaned it with the towel, the fabric that we stained was still completely red.
So these are some of our errors and limitations. The photos of the fabrics look different on the computer than how they did in real life. This could have affected how we analyze our data because we took pictures of each of the fabrics and towels, and after we were done with our experimenting, we looked at these. Also, even when following the same procedure for the paste, they still came out in different consistencies. And because of a last-minute schedule change, the baking soda trials sat out for more than an hour. And lastly, there was some human error, and sometimes our measurements were off by a bit, and we didn't notice.
Okay, so there was a slight complication that occurred when we were testing. So when we did the baking soda trials, we noticed that when we scrubbed it, the scrubbing towel came out clean, which according to how we were analyzing our data, that would mean that the baking soda did not work at all as a cleaner. But upon further investigation, we realized that the reason the scrubbing towel came out clean was because the fabric itself was clean. There were no tannins at all to be seen on the actual fabric. This meant that actually the baking soda had somehow made the tannins completely disappear. This would mean that if we had analyzed our data by how clean the actual fabrics were, as opposed to how red the scrubbing towels were, then baking soda would have been the best cleaner. However, since the baking soda scrubbing towels came out clean, we were forced to give them the worst ranking. Basically, because of an error in a flaw in our system of how we were analyzing our data, how we were doing it was the more red the scrubbing towel came out, the better the cleaner had worked. But we didn't account for the possibility that the stained piece of fabric, the cleaner would get rid of all the tannins before we scrubbed it, and so we weren't able to say it was the best cleaner because of how we were analyzing our data. So this is just a flaw in our system that we thought was important to say.
In conclusion, our prediction was wrong, as nail polish remover was the best stain remover, not baking soda. However, we were correct in predicting that bases would be better at cleaning than acids, as our top cleaner was nail polish remover, which is a base. Since the order of the best cleaners is almost entirely the same for all of the fabrics, we were correct in predicting that the optimal cleaner will not differ depending on the fabric stain. Why is this relevant now? With all that is happening in the world around us, it is important to find alternative stain removers that you can find at home, as it is getting harder to go outside and do your day-to-day chores. We hope that our findings will be useful to everyone who's staying at home right now, and we hope that you'll test out findings out for yourselves too. Questions?
Bravo. Excellent. So if you wouldn't mind unsharing your screen now, Zach, and so then we could see everyone in our grid, and then you guys can facilitate asking questions.
Any questions?
Ethan?
I have a question about your graph.
Okay.
Can you pull it up? Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I'll try. See. Sorry.
It's okay. You don't need to apologize.
Here.
So what is the y-axis, like the numbers mean?
That's like our ranking from 1 to 5, because we used 5 cleaners, and so 1 is the best, 5 is the worst.
Yeah, and it was very difficult also for us to, everything we were ranking was on a macroscopic level. We just had to basically do the rankings according to like the photos afterwards. And as we said, it was also like kind of hard to do that for the most part because the photos look different, because at the end we analyzed all of our photos and we noticed that they could have looked different in reality.
Yeah, if we were to take it another level, we definitely try to do it microscopically too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mira?
I was gonna give a compliment. I think that you guys did a really good job of like explaining like each step, and like I feel like I would have been able to like understand just by reading it without you guys saying it. I would have still been able to understand what your project like was doing. And so yeah, I thought your slides were very thought through and clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask one. I also thought it was extremely clear, so thank you for talking us through the details. I especially love your conclusion was really fascinating, which we talked a lot about through this process. So I'm wondering, I sort of have 2 questions. One is, if you were to go back, do you have an idea of how you would redesign your project to test in a way that might yield results to support I guess this alternative conclusion that baking soda was the best, right? Now that you see that perhaps your design didn't work, how would you redesign it? And then following up on that, what then would be the next step? So you have a new design and then you want to push it even further.
Yeah.
Probably
Well, the reason
with like when we stain it, look at it on a microscopic level and see like before we stain it, look at it on a microscopic level. Then when we stain it, to see like how they soak, like how the tannins soaked in and stuff like that, and then do the cleaning and then look at it to see if the tannins are gone or if the stain was just turned a different color. Because if it didn't remove the stain, if it just turned the stain a different color, then that's not a stain remover, that's a stain something. But probably just kind of looking at it on a more microscopic level would probably be a good idea.
Also, I think if we just like, it would be harder if we just like, let's say we just measured it by the fabrics instead of the towels, then there still would have been an error because with cotton, it didn't show up on the fabric. So it's not that simple. Like, I agree with Danny, it definitely would have been like more efficient if we did it on a microscopic level. But I still think the data is helpful because you can actually, like, with stain removing, like, you can like decide from the pictures, you could see which one like is the most efficient, I feel.
And also, I think we would also want to research with baking
also the
soda
reason we had to
because
Sorry, why don't you talk? Why doesn't Elizabeth speak and then Tomer speak?
well, as I was saying, as we noticed in our observations, we wrote that when the baking soda touched the stain fabric, it immediately turned gray, and we weren't really sure why. And so I think that also relates to the microscopic level because we never really researched what had happened. And I think part of the microscopic level is seeing what actually happens with the molecules and like everything like eating each other and like what was happening on a microscopic level that actually made the stain disappear. And I think that's also something interesting that would happen in our next step of the project.
also the reason we had to measure by the like towel and not by the fabric is because our we had our cotton was white, and while the dry fit was blue, and it was harder to see on that. It was harder to see the stain. So if we were to do this again, I think we would want all of them to be the same color.
White. That's very true. Yeah, we noticed at the beginning of our experiment that it was very difficult to like determine because they were like our dry fit was blue or denim was blue. And so the only way that we could really tell how the stain remover worked the best was blue.
Also, another interesting part that we could further was like going like we saw that the materials didn't really make a difference, but in a way they're like denim is actually just cotton weaved a different way, and dry fit is a combination of cotton and polyester. Like it's all just about being weaved differently.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for those thoughtful responses. So I'm gonna end your recording now.